One of the questions I'm asked again and again is how I can use creativity to improve my mental health. And I felt like today was a really good day to make a video to explain how I use it in my life to improve my mental health. I like to tell everybody you don't have to be an artist to use art as a tool. You can make basic shapes like this line again and again, and it's just as helpful as drawing beautiful florals. And in its own way, it's also as beautiful. You can focus on the color palette. You can focus on creating a much larger pattern. There's so many beautiful things that can come out of such a simple shape. There's something about the repetition that is really meditative. It can absolutely boost mindfulness. And what I really love about it is how it interrupts rumination. And if anybody's ever dealt with anxiety, you know how your mind will just sit there and spin things around and around 100 times over. And it's something that's really important for interrupting that cycle. Art can also help you find your flow. It allows your higher mind to open up and think about things you maybe weren't considering because your mind was so preoccupied with worry and anxiety. If I have more time, I like to draw something like these florals. One, because it's comforting to me. It's something I've been drawing my entire life. But it's also something beautiful I can create out of such a dark and stressful and hard time, something like anxiety or dealing with mental health issues. I would encourage everybody to just begin. Start putting your pen to the paper. Start with some simple lines, and you can add on from there. Another way you can use art and creativity for your mental health is through coloring. If you don't have any time and energy to devote into creating something completely from scratch, absolutely download a coloring sheet, use a coloring book, and just color within the lines. The repetition of that motion and the fact that you're having to use a lot of hand-eye coordination allows your mind to open up. It's important to remember when creating or planning that there's no such thing as a mistake. Try to let things happen as they are. You can always go back and correct it later, but really instead of doubting your skills, focus in on the creative process. If art and planning is something that helps you manage your anxious thoughts or your mental health, then it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. One thing I'm asked all the time is about how my bipolar impacts my daily life. And it's definitely a struggle. It's definitely something that's going to be there, even though I do take medication to help. It's always present. And so when I'm experiencing something like mania, I tend to have 100 ideas at once. And the best thing I can do for myself is to not have to worry about what something looks like, but just jot every single idea down on the page. And sometimes I'll fill up 3 or 4 or 5 pages. And as you can see, this is not pretty. This is not something that looks good, but it is important for me to get the ideas out of my head and onto paper. And some of them are good and some of them are not good. But what the most important piece about this is just getting them out of my head and onto this paper. Later on, or if I'm experiencing some kind of depressive episode, I can take these ideas that I've had when I was manic and I can still make them work into my daily life. So what I like to do is I like to create a planning spread and write all these ideas down, plan them out on my timeline. Then I can use color coding to figure out which ones are the most important, which ones impact my personal life, which ones impact my business life, and I can decide which ones to work on first. Well, thank you so much for listening, and I hope it inspires you to do something creative for your mental wellness.